Hi all, welcome to this latest Off the Post, kind of delving into the world of price comparisons for like match day tickets, kits, all that kind of stuff. Because I was having a look at this, especially as quite a lot of teams are obviously thinking with like Europe, for example, and when you factor in for a lot of teams, maybe say travel for getting to places, it can be quite an expensive match day experience, regardless of if, say, you're a fan, all you've really got to account for is, say, the match day tickets, regardless if you're a season ticket holder or not. You might not have, say, travel costs, like, say, bus, train, car, that kind of, or even flying, depending if you're someone that's maybe coming from abroad to watch the game. Um, and also depending on other elements like buying food maybe in the stadium or out of the stadium, any drink. There's a lot of kind of costs that make football. It was an argument I saw quite a lot during the World Cup where fans were saying football is becoming a much more expensive sport, especially when if you're thinking of like the wages of players are becoming big six-figure sums. Sorry, I was going to say fumbles there. Uh, Words went all over the place, but having so much in terms of like I've seen it enough times with Germany, because of the 50+1 rule. They say that the ticket value has always been relatively low. It's which makes a big difference really if prices are as low as possible. See, if it's like I've seen some of the teams where I think the cheapest ticket I've seen is like £5 for like a match day ticket in Germany, and I'm like, and yes, you might get that in maybe Scotland or England or some of the other countries, but a lot of the times it's lower down. But if the top division or if Bundesliga or the second Bundesliga is literally £5 for the cheapest ticket, it's not bad. Obviously, I think the most expensive I've generally seen is around like £15-20, but it's nothing too alarming to kind of account for. Obviously, for what I've seen in terms of like outlays for tickets generally, um, like when I've been to like Spain and seen games and like they've been like £20 a ticket or something, £20-30, depending on the fixture. Italy, I've seen the cheapest. I think the cheapest was like £7.50 once. I've seen, and I was like, wow, that's quite cheap. I was like £7.50 for a match day ticket. It was quite a specific value. I think when you um, converted it from euros to pounds. Ligue 1, I've generally seen is I think £10-12 is round about the cheapest. Usually I've seen um, England and Scotland, they tend to obviously be like £30 a ticket minimum, and it's like 30, 40, £50, and you're like, really? It's like I've seen it enough times where like if a team had I saw one team, it was given as an example, if basically they were selling tickets at £30, or £25, whatever it was, the value, and they were maybe getting, say, 20,000 fans in the stadium that week or 15,000. They would get that as their average, and enough every home game, 15 to 20,000, whatever it was. But they were basically told if they were to put the value of the tickets from what they're charging currently at that point and putting it down from, I'm sure it's £30. If they were to put it down to 25, they would suddenly have, I think they say they would, the fan groups basically said you could suddenly have like 5,000 more fans in the stadium. And they were like, and the club were like, yeah, sure, like that's going to happen. And the fan group were like, yes, it's basically that £5, and it was all to do with um, the fans when the club basically put out a big survey. The fan group put a big survey out, and it was basically near enough all the fans basically entered this survey. It was to basically look at how to improve the match day experience. The fans themselves put the effort in to do this match day survey. Not the club, but it was the fans to give it to the fans of the club to give it to the club to say, look. And it was basically if the match day tickets were down £5 and like the overall food was down like by £5, they basically would have around about 5,000-6,000 more fans every home game basically. And I think the club put the tickets up as a result of this. They said, "Oh, we'll put it up. We don't want yous." And it was like, seriously, you went from where you could have had 20,000 fans or 22,000 fans, and you've basically and I think the attendance went down, and I think they either had like a change of either ownership or a change of upper management. I think it was, and the upper management I think were like embarrassed by the previous like upper management or the ownership, whatever it was. I can't remember. I went looking for the info just to be precise, but and when you're trying googling it and it picks up different things that you're spotting, but it wasn't what it was. And basically, the it was just quite startling to see. I thought that's quite sad, really. Um, where if you could basically sell out the stadium every week, and yet you're having gaps in the stadium, and it was like this with a lot of clubs you sometimes see, and like if an average capacity for a stadium is if the stadium capacity when full is say 20,000 or 25,000, and you're like half full or 2/3 full, it can be a bit say demoralising because you've got to say to yourself, how can we improve this? And there is ways of doing it, and clubs should really do better in that regards. Obviously, as you go further into it, when I was looking over like the general like match day outlays that I was reading, um, it's at lowest was about £30 for like say France, Italy, and Germany, going at highest of around £70 with them. Same for kind of like Premier League, it was saying around 70 to maybe even £100. Same for, but then Spain's average, like when I was reading it, was going much higher due to, um, depending on the teams like Barcelona, Real Madrid can be quite, and Atletico can be quite expensive, but other teams within, like say La Liga, are more reasonable. When I've done games in Spain, it's the overall outlay's not actually been that bad. I've I think one of the match days when I went, and I'm sure it was like, I think all told, I think I was about £40, 40 or £50 for the whole like the day. I was quite surprised. I was like, I can't fault this. It was delighted. Obviously, depending on like away games as well. Away games is where the value can maybe really hit hard. Obviously, with England in particular, they have a lot of London teams or a lot of geographical teams. But then the argument I was reading as well is for a lot of fans is what if you have games on Sky? Say you can't do the away game, but your game's on, say, Sky or Amazon or TNT or whatever it may be, like whatever kind of platform it is, then that adds to maybe the cost of the season. So you might be spending, say, just say £500 for all your home games for the season, but then depending on, say, your subscriptions, for example, that may become a factor to account for. Um, but it's quite interesting in terms of just trying to balance out what most fans are able to kind of get, really, as it were, for their match day experience. Like I know a lot of fans, in particular, do quite an effort in Scotland to go to Newcastle in particular for match day experiences because it's actually where I think they find doing like Edinburgh, Glasgow, Aberdeen, to Newcastle. It's not too far, but it's also not too expensive because they're able to get the train down, um, get down in good time, enjoy the game, and because because Newcastle are a big club, big stadium, they're able to. Because I saw one fan group from Edinburgh and one fan group from Glasgow. They did this last season going to Newcastle. It was about basically the fans were going to hire a coach originally, and each group, but they were quoted a bit much for their liking for them all to get down, and they looked at the trains, and they had just looked at the trains at the right time, and they were able to basically, what funnily enough happened was the Edinburgh group and the Glasgow group just so happened to be going to the same Newcastle game, and they basically all kind of bought out like one Edinburgh group bought out the Edinburgh train and the Glasgow group bought out the Glasgow train basically near enough, and it was reasonably priced, and they all, funnily enough, they all kind of met at the game because it turned out there was people within both groups knew each other that were going, and they'd been bringing it up, and so about 100 of these fans got to meet each other, have a bit of fun, and say, "Oh, it's great to see you." Meet you for some of them, and it was just such a wholesome experience that they got to enjoy a match day. And as they said, it added to the experience. I thought that was quite a fun way to look at it. Um, but obviously, it can vary per club in terms of what you're kind of after, as it were. Obviously, I was going to look other countries, like in Scotland, the average is about £25-30, which can be quite steep. Some of it can go down as low as 20 depending on games, but like even then it can be quite difficult because obviously sometimes it goes up to 35, maybe even pushing 40 depending on the opposition. I just feel it's kind of not necessary in the grand scheme of things. Um, like, and then when you go across like other countries, Netherlands, Portugal, Belgium, MLS, these tickets can vary all over the place. Anywhere from like £15 at the lowest I've seen, and the highest being around about like 150 to about £200, depending on what you're wanting and where you're wanting to sit. Um, like obviously some of the teams are trying their hardest to not make it expensive, but it's comes down to what you're able to afford. And I think because the World Cup kind of opened up a lot of people's eyes in terms of the spends of tickets, and then and for a lot of fans as well, if they're buying like kits, scarves, hats, hoodies, like tracks, or even like big, like heavy or jackets, or whatever. It can all build up as well because like buying a shirt usually on average is like 60 to like £100. I've seen most places in um, Europe and America, and you say to yourself, I think the lowest I've seen for like kits like this season's around about like about £40 or something, 40 £45, and it's quite sad really that clubs can feel like they can justify minimum at least say 50 and pushing it over £100 for a kit, because I do kind of question why um like it's just not necessarily baffling, it's just why would you allow, especially as a lot of fans now would, like younger fans like to have the kit, maybe like the shorts as well and the socks, and that can be well in excess of £100. If you're wanting obviously the say a name on the back and a number, that's added money. But also buying it from say the club or a reputable shop that sells it, because we live in a day and age where it's like we have replicas, you have maybe the match day kits, because people make an effort of just wanting a match day kit. Like if you have a match day kit that's been worn by, say, we'll talk, say, Liverpool, for example, or Tottenham, could be, from, say, a Liverpool point of view, it could be, say, a Virgil van Dijk. Or Tottenham could be Pedro Porro. You might say to yourself, right, I'm wanting one of their matchday kits. It's not, you're not maybe say wanting it, say, you might want it signed, or you're maybe just wanting it for framing purposes, for like authenticity, say, oh, Virgil van Dijk wore this kit, or Pedro Porro wore this kit during this game. That's where the prices can maybe steep up as well. So it's important to account for that as well. But I think that for a lot of teams, it's, and fans, it's important to, like, I know for myself, like, I've tried my hardest over the years to have a steady flow of kits from Hibs, as a Hibs fan, but also when I'm getting other kits over the years, whether it be from friends or family or whatever it may be, when I've, like, not necessarily had a collection, but tried to have a nice variety of strips. And also because if you're trying to look after them, that it's important as well to, you maybe not want to wear them too often, that you're maybe wearing out, say, the sponsors or the badge, because obviously too many washes over time will, of course, create wear and tear. But talking on that as well, I might even sort out a little giveaway, folks, for like a match day ticket or a match day or a kit, to one person. I'll see what I can sort. Obviously, just remember to engage in the video, like it, comment, subscribe, all that kind of good stuff. And obviously, I'll sort out that on Twitter as well for people to engage in. And you never know, might be able to make someone's lucky day, but we'll see how that progresses from there. But let me know, folks, what your say like a match day experience for you may cost. As I said, I know for myself, I'm never really that expensive when I do Hibs games. It's more I'm conscious of when it's like, if it's a European game, if I wanted to go abroad, it's a bit more money that I've got to account for. But yeah, take it from there. So hopefully you find all that useful, folks. Let me know what that equates for you. Have a good one, folks. Take it easy. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you all later.